mean, yeah, this is
All right.
great. Okay. This is
Hello,
great. This is wonderful.
hello, everyone. It's time for a little bit of Ricky Williams, and we're here with Shane Davis as well, who is one of the main people who works at the Moira Press. But this is a very exciting episode because we're going to be talking about Ricky Williams' app today, which is called LILA, I believe. Now, Ricky, you have a few names for it. Tell us about it, basically.
Yeah. So in the app world, I actually have two apps now. The first one is called Lila, Lila, and the the subtitle is Astrology for Grownups. And the second app is an extension of Lila. It's called Ask Lila. And I created it to really play with the capabilities of AI and large language models and astrology. So I'm basically teaching ChatGPT or Claude how to do astrology. And so it's been fun. It's been a playground. And some people are open and interested in AI. So that's why I created a separate app. And some people just want the basics of astrology. And that's really what Lila delivers. One more thing. The thing about Lila is that my vision is I call us a astrological lifestyle brand. Because a lot of people study astrology, but I'm a practicing person, and so I've been practicing astrology. And the idea for Lila came when my wife, and she wasn't my wife at the time, we were taking a synastry astrology class together, and it was a 4-day class. And the first 3 days, so I had just gotten out of a marriage, and Lene and I had been dating for about a year. So it was really fresh, right? A relationship, a long relationship that didn't last, and a new relationship that I hope will last. Right? So I was very sensitive to this transition point in relationships. And I think there's something about the ending of a relationship where it's a unique time where you can reflect back on the whole process and try to make sense of it all. And I think astrology is a wonderful tool for that. And then a new relationship, understanding what the possibilities are. So I was using astrology as I was navigating this process. And divorces are tough, but the nature of how I did it was beautiful. It was graceful, and it was because of astrology navigating this crossover period. And there I was, in a synastry class with my new partner, and being able to process all of this through learning synastry. And on the last day, my teacher Steve, he always pulls a name out of the hat, and then he does an exhibit for the whole day, putting into action what he just taught us. And it was so crazy. It was my 40th birthday, and of course he pulled my name out of the hat, and he spent the whole day doing a synastry reading for Linnea and myself. And basically what he did is he didn't know he was doing it, but he told the story of the relationship, of why the first one didn't work and what the possibilities were for this relationship. And he talked about it so eloquently. I was like, wow. It hit both. Lene and I, we looked at each other and we said, we got to get this information out into the world. Right. This idea of there's something I think uniquely special about astrology that helps us navigate one of the most challenging things that we humans do is mate, right? Trying to really create a strong bond with someone. And so that was the moment that Lila was born. Right? It was born out of this appreciation of not just studying astrology, but actually applying it in your daily life. So we've created the app just for that. It's not really, people use it this way, but it's not really meant to do astrology. It's meant more to facilitate you living astrology. One example of that, and this is my baby, I call it the daily section. And I always thought about horoscopes, and they talk about sun signs, but the sun stays in a sign for a month. So it doesn't feel like a daily thing. And then I thought, well, what moves the fastest in astrology? All right, the moon, right? The fastest moving object. So why don't we base horoscopes on what's going on with the moon? And so that's what I created in the daily section. It shows, I call it the collective mood is the sign the moon is in. And then I call it self-care check-ins. is what house is the moon passing through and what planets is the moon conjunct. And it's just a reminder, right, on a cyclical cycle, it's a reminder to take care of yourself, to check in. And I think that's really what the moon is asking us to do or reminding us to do is to check in. So I added these reminders to help to facilitate people utilizing the moon to take better care of themselves. So that's the mindset and the heart behind where LILA came from.
Hmm. It's your baby. That's so cute.
Yeah.
You have 7 children.
Yeah, exactly. This
So
one's the most expensive.
well, maybe it'll be the most profitable someday as well.
Exactly. I think yeah. I was joking about my kids. I was like, this one has the most potential. And I was like, I got 2 other ones that have a lot of potential too.
Well,
to get a return on your investment, or as astrology would say, on your gamble, right? Your speculation.
Yeah. I know when people have babies, I'm like, do you actually know that? Yeah, you could be getting a real doozy there. Anyway, but as far as we're talking about like end user interface stuff. Okay, I gotta pull up my computer terms. But so why do you call it like astrology for adults though? Is it
For
like
grown-ups.
is it R-rated or what's the deal?
No, it's for grown-ups because I think there's a culture in astrology of astrology for entertainment, you know? And I think it's wonderful and it's great and it's been good. But I think it pushes astrology into superstition, right? It's like where people are like, it works some of the time and that's good enough because it gives expression to the woo side of me. And again, we need that and it's great, but I think we miss the practical value of astrology. And that's just been my experience and it's been so meaningful and helpful in my life. I feel compelled and obsessed to at least let people know that, hey, this can really help your life.
Yeah.
And I think you have to be a grown up or an adult to get to the point where you're like, okay, right, that you're going to take it seriously. Because especially the way Steve writes, and Steve even said that. He said, sometimes when I read LILA, right, it's hard for me. Because to me, one of the greatest values of astrology, the practical values, is it's a very crystal clear mirror to deeper parts of yourself. And sometimes those parts are difficult to see. But true to form, we've created LILA where you're going to look in the mirror and you might have to deal with some uncomfortable things. I want to tell a personal story, and it was funny as this was going on in my life. Right, I thought to myself, one day I'm going to be able to tell this story when I'm talking about LILA, and the moment is right now. Right, so I was joking. I'll give a little astrological context. And the reason I'm giving the context is because I want to help people appreciate in real life the value of this information in navigating relationships. Okay. So my wife is second house. She's got the sun and Mercury in the second house, and they're both strong in her chart. So resources and money are something that are important to her. Right? They're important to her. She went to law school. She became an attorney motivated by this idea. For me, I have Uranus in the second. And if anyone looked at my history of things around money, they'll see it's kind of crazy, right? So we come together and everything clicks. But the one issue where there's opposition, there's challenges is around resources, something that's important to her, something that I'm more irreverent about. Okay? And so and we start this app. And then when you have a startup and you have a vision and a dream, it takes a lot of gas to get it up and going before it starts to bear fruit. Right? Any farmer knows that. And again, I'm more risky, around money. She's more resourceful. And she just had a kid, so she's kind of out of it. And so, well, maybe I was putting stuff on the credit card. I wasn't telling her everything that I was doing, to keep listen, no, but it's real to keep the company afloat, right? And so one day she's the Cap Moon. Okay, one day she has like an activation to her Saturn. She's like, I just want to look at all of the financial records, and this is the gamble, right? When you're in a relationship with someone that has a lot of Pisces and a lot of Capricorn, because right, the Pisces is great because you can get away with a whole lot of stuff. But the Capricorn, when it comes in, it's like, uh-oh, right? Like the teacher's coming to check the beds and look under. So she did this intense audit of like all the financial stuff, you know? Oh man, it was tough. And of course she was like, "What's going on?" You know, and I was like, "Hey, you know, it's startup world. Like we got to take risks. Like we're building something. You know, and this is something that's really important to me. Like that's the underlying thing of her understanding. This is the most important thing in my life. You know, and good for me to understand that too. And so, right, she was like, okay, right. And she got to that point where she was like, all right, I understand, you know, but it was still like, you know, walking on eggshells, you know. And then she's like, all right, I'm glad that we're having this conversation so we can get, you know, we can get our stuff in order. And there was like one credit card that I wasn't sure if she knew about, you know. And it was like one of those things is like, do I just bring it up and say, hey, there's this other credit card too, you know? Or right, do I roll the die and see if the Pisces kicks back in? Yeah. So
Look at
kind of
that.
going back and forth, and it's keeping me up at night, you know, and something tells me, look at LILA. All right. So I open up LILA and I'm looking at my transits, and it's like Saturn activating my South Node. You know? And I started reading what Steve wrote, and it was like exactly describing the predicament I was in. You know, something that I was trying, right? I was pretending I didn't understand the importance of it. But as soon as I saw it in the app, I was like, okay, this is one of those make or break moments in our relationship. You know? And so the next morning I woke up, you know, and I was trembling and shaking. And I said, hey, you know, there's one more credit card I didn't tell you about. You know, let's add this to the list. Okay. And
Mm.
she was like, she looked at me and she was like, thanks for telling me, you know? And I was like, anyway, it was thanks for telling me. We got to move on to the next step. But if I hadn't told her and she found out, something like some deep level of trust would have been broken, you know? And I'm not sure the relationship could have recovered.
Mm.
And I'm telling you, like, and this is why I say astrology for grown-ups, because that's a grown-up real life situation, you know? And to be able to have something that can meet us there and give us good counsel in those kinds of moments are so invaluable.
Interesting. So, Shane, do you have a copy of LILA on your phone?
I do, actually. I'm a subscriber.
So, what do you
Sweet.
notice about LILA?
Uh, I think astrology for grown-ups is a very good tagline for it. I'm relatively new in my astrological career. You know, I've been studying now for about 2 years, mostly with Andy. But I've gotten to the point where I can read my own chart and watch my own transits, and LILA is a very useful tool for that. Actually the only app I've seen that actually makes like watching your current transits super easy. And I love that about it. It's very helpful.
So, what does it look like when you watch your transits on Leah? Can you tweak your camera down like an inch? I just have to see that that's all be equal. Okay, there we go. Um, oh no, up an inch. Oh, that's too much. Okay, that's better. Okay.
That's great. Is that what it sounds like when you guys are having sex?
It depends on what's on the schedule. No,
Up a little, down a little.
anyway. Yeah, that's perfect. That's perfect. Okay. So
Uh,
what's it look like when you're watching? Isn't Shane a beautiful Virgo though? Come on.
Amen to that.
Is his hair
Yes.
like something else? Okay, he's like Father Time or something. All right, Father Time, speak to us about the transits here.
Well, I mean, when you open LILA up, I wish I could share my phone screen really easy. One of the options down at the bottom is transits, which is just showing you your current transits, and it gives you an overview, and then you can search it by house or planet, and then click on it to get details about whatever that particular transit is. And
So it
uh,
doesn't just do the moon, it does all the transits.
yeah, yeah. Like right now on my by planet, I've got the Saturn opposing my sun, Jupiter opposing moon, Mercury trine my moon, Uranus square my Venus, Mercury square my Neptune, Jupiter square my South Node.
Okay,
It does
we get it.
all
Okay.
of
So
it.
what he's talking about is it's a Ricky convention, and thinking one of the issues when you start studying transits is it's so much information, right? Depending on the orbs or aspects you use, right? There could be 20 transits going on at the same time, and it's like when you look at it, it's like, whoa, right? What are the important ones? And so what I did is I broke up the transits into looking at them three different ways. The first way is it's a technique that I learned from my teacher Steve. It's called the four nets. And his big thing is you have to prioritize what's most important. So on the first net, we are saying these are going to be the most important aspects, right? Typically they last a little bit longer, but it's the main theme. And then we say, okay, what's next? These are going to be supporting the larger theme. And then we say, what's next? These are more minor. And then the fourth net are like daily triggers or activations, because it helps the mind organize itself around how these things, how important are these things, and where might I recognize what this is saying in my life, right? And then building on that, I list them by house. So I'm showing which transits are activating which area of life. So a good friend of mine is having money issues. I can say, go to LILA and look at the transits that are activating your second house. And that's where to look. You might get some insight into what's going on with resources. And then the third way, which is
hone in on the second house like that.
Exactly.
I've never seen an app do that ever.
Yeah, this is my thing. And then the other one is by planet. So look at all of the transits affecting your sun right now. Because if the sun is being activated, it's not just right. If there's more transits and we're only looking at one, we're missing a color or a flavor. So I wanted to see what are all of the things affecting my sun right now? What are all of the things affecting my moon right now? And I think that helps clarify and helps us tune into what the effect of the transit actually looks like.
Interesting. So I have to ask, being on this show, do you include any culture layer things in the app?
Not at all. Not at all. But I think the way, and Stephen is very sensitive to making sure that anything he writes stands the test of time, right? He's Jupiter conjunct the sun in Capricorn. And so I think he writes at a layer that is beneath culture. And I think this is why I say living it, because if someone can connect to that level that's beneath culture, I think it'll amplify how the symbol manifests through their culture. Because if we get a sense of who we are at a deeper level, that part of us that's deeper than culture, it can help us be more conscious and creative with how that manifests through our culture.
That makes sense.
I mean, of course, if I was writing your app for you, I would be like, "Can we get a cultural layer button on there?" No, I don't know. It's not my app.
Well, but to me, but this is my whole thing is really about collaboration. My hope is that other astrologers, people that have ideas, and it's not just astrologers, people that have real ideas that they want to help put into practice. That what I've created is a vehicle to be able to do that. I think about the company it's really a distribution company. And because this is what astrology allows us to do. It allows us to deliver good advice or wisdom to the right person at the right time. Because, there's Saturn advice, but if you're taking Saturn advice during a Jupiter time, you're going to miss opportunities, right? And if you're taking Jupiter advice during a Saturn time, you're going to blow a whole lot of money and energy, right? So I think the thing in life is we can all recognize, oh, that's a beautiful quote. Oh, that movie really touched me. But the significance of that impact is purely based on timing. And astrology gives us the information of at what time are you going to be most open and receptive to receiving something.
Interesting. So, Shane, do you have any computer programmer questions? For everyone watching, just, Shane is a computer programmer as well, which is why we're talking about the app with him on here. He's a Virgo rising, Virgo sun with Mercury and Virgo rising. And Ricky is a Virgo rising, part of why he loves doing this computer programming stuff. So Shane, we brought you on to really grill Ricky on the app. What do you got for us?
First question, you mentioned a few times what Stephen wrote. Is that where all of the Astro content comes from? Is from Stephen writing stuff for that?
Yeah. So in Ask LILA, it's the large language model or the AI that's taking my instruction of how to do astrology, which is informed by Steve mainly, and doing it's exactly Stephen Forrest. Yeah. And LILA is 95% written by Stephen Forrest. There's 5% of that I wrote. That's if you go in the app and you read the Venus and relationship section, I wrote that. And funny story, right? When Steve and I got together to start creating the content, we met at our house in the mountains. And Steve said, I'll take the sun, moon, and rising. You take Mars and Venus. And I have Mars, Venus conjunct. And I was like, fine. So I started sitting down and working, and he sat in the corner and he just started going to work, man. This dude's a machine. Okay. And he starts going to work and he's like, I'm done. Right. And I'm still 3/4 of the way through Venus in relationship. I think so. I think I wrote all the Venus stuff, right? And he's like, all right, I'll take everything else. So he wrote everything. I wrote the Venus section. So if you read Venus, that's me. Everything else is Steve. But I wrote it. He was like right behind me. So I was channeling him.
You're absorbing his photons and putting them through your computer. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So there's you, Stephen, and your partner. How big is your team overall?
It's me, Linnea. We have Shauna who does our design, and then we have a CTO, Sam, who oversees, who answers technical questions for us, and then we have a developer, Josue, that writes the large majority of the code.
Cool. And geek questions. What's it written in?
LILA was first written in Xamarin, and then Microsoft deprecated, and so now it's Maui. And we did that because we wanted to be cross-platform. I mean, there's other reasons, but so that it allowed us to get on Android in like a month, So it's that, and then Ask LILA, because it's really my playground, is written in Swift.
Okay.
Cool. Are these languages you are aware of, Shane?
Swift I'm familiar with, yes. Maui I've heard of, but I don't really know much about it.
Yeah.
Interesting. And what is a large language model?
It's like ChatGPT or Claude. It's a chatbot. It's what people think of when they think of ChatGPT. ChatGPT is probably the most popular large language model, but Gemini, Grok, Perplexity.
What AI is today the language model is what comes out of all the machine learning, and it's basically a text prediction algorithm in most cases. It looks at what you've got and tries to answer that by predicting what the next best word is going to be.
Interesting.
Which is why you get a lot of they call it hallucinations, where it's not fact, it's just making stuff up because it
just makes stuff up. Yeah.
So you have to guard against that very carefully when you're working with LLM.
Yes. I've just learned that this past week. I learned that the hard way this past week.
So when Ricky says he's working on an app all day, so Ricky, you're not sitting there writing the code yourself. You're like the producer of the app, so you're making sure everyone does their job on the app?
I think for LILA, I'm more of I hold the vision. As I create the vision for the direction we're going, and if there's a decision to be made, then I'll make the decision. But at this point, it's pretty much taken on a life of its own, and I have the basic premise up there. I mean, we still have to build out the relationships, the connection section more. But so yeah, I just make sure it stays on track. For Ask LILA, that's the thing that I'm working on any free moment that I have. Because first of all, this is not it's not my training. So I've had to teach myself so much. And so I make a lot of rookie little mistakes that then take a lot of time to clean up. But I'm making peace with the process. And it's funny, we mentioned earlier T-squares. And yeah, I'm a Virgo rising, and I have a T-square, Mercury opposing Uranus, and they're both square Saturn. And so someone might say, it's going to be hard work to do what I'm doing, but the training and being a football player is hard work, and you're not always successful, and you have to clean up messes. So I feel like my training in football has prepared me to make the most of this T-square, and it's helping. I think the T-square, it's a remedial measure. 100%. And it gives expression to my Mars. Like I think of, I have 7 kids, right? I think if I had learned to code earlier, I might have 7 kids, but only one of them would be in human form.
Interesting. Yeah, I mean, production is really interesting. We've been reading this book on production, and it talks about how like if the producer of a thing holds the vision and gets a lot of the funding, and then they are making sure that all the people are doing their things, but like without the producer, nothing would run, you know, kind of thing. But it is a visionary. I mean, that is making sure your baby comes to life and grows up big and strong, and that is the job of that. So
Yeah. Yeah. And
I
so like in my system, the sun would be the typical idea of a CEO. I think they're Saturn type CEOs, but I think they're mainly the image is a solar CEO, and the Saturn is the CFO or the COO. But for me, my strongest planet is the moon. And so the way I lead, it's very lunar. And knowing that I'm not a solar leader, I don't try to act like one, because when I do, I really suck at it. So my attitude is to nurture the company, but also to make an attempt to nurture the people, our small team. And what I keep pushing to our team is our job is not to make money, it's to nurture our community. And so this theme, this moon, 10th house moon in Cancer theme, I'm cognizant of it, and so it allows me to lead in ways that feel really good to me.
Nice.
And other people.
All right, Shane, do you have another question?
I just got distracted by that. That's really awesome. That's a great way I found to lead. I'm a team lead at my work too, and that's kind of the way I treat things is I'm trying to take care of my team and also make sure that we're always taking care of the end user.
Yeah.
Like those are the two things we can do. And if we can do that, we're going to be successful.
Yeah. So just a note here, when I was sharing my story, I was talking about my moon in the 10th house in Cancer, and the moon is my strongest planet. In my system, Shane's strongest planet is the moon, and in his 10th house, he's got Mars and Jupiter in Cancer, right, opposing the moon. So, and square Pluto, right? I have my moon square Pluto too. So you can see in our chart this resonance that also is manifesting in a connection about how we view nurturing, right? That I would say as moon people, our whole thing in this world, right? Even if we didn't want to, because of our sensitivity, is to take care of ourselves and to take care of things and to take care of people.
Well, in the producer's book that I'm reading, it's talking about how the producer takes care of all the actors and things emotionally so that they can keep working. I mean, there's so much emotionalism in team leading. I mean, it's not a small part of the job.
I think this is why people say the world might be better off if there were more women leaders.
I would agree.
Interesting. Okay.
Yeah, more emotional, like caretaking aspect is, that's I think what's driving behind that thought as well.
Yeah, exactly. Because I think what's Bill, even if we're only talking about biology, right? A woman's biology has the ability to take a couple of cells and turn it into a crybaby, into a crying baby, into a living thing. Like, come on now, okay? So, right,
a coding baby. You're a coding baby now.
This ability to take potential and turn it into something that's real and alive. Yeah. And I think, right, and I think if we want to be successful as a family, as a company, and whatever, a production, whatever we're doing, right, that one of the best things we can do to ensure success is we make sure that we create an environment that allows people to thrive.
Okay, well, I have to ask you the question. So how can the community get involved in LILA? I mean, I'm sure you're busy. I mean, how can people, if you say you're kind of this distribution channel, how can people get involved with LILA or support LILA?
Yeah. So there's a famous book on startups called Crossing the Chasm. And it's a beautiful book because it outlines how to take a novel or conventional idea and go through the process of making it acceptable for the whole world. And that's my deeper vision, and maybe not when I'm alive, but hopefully I set the wheels in motion, that everyone has access to this information because it's so helpful in navigating life, right? So that's to me, that's the the bigger image or the bigger thing that I'm working towards. And so in Crossing the Chasm, it talks about different phases. And the first phase he calls, right, is when you have a fresh idea and you're just messing around trying to get something up. And he says the market you need or the people you need then are the techies. And those are the people that are willing to play with it. And if it breaks sometimes, they don't care because they're just excited that they have access to this new technology first. Right? And when we first started, right, the real astrology heads that were into Stephen's type of astrology, right, those were the people that were that subscribed on the first when we first launched, and they gave us feedback and they shared it with other people. And the next stage, which is where we are now, is where they call it the visionary stage. And that means you got something up and running that people can use, right? But we haven't found exactly how to make it applicable in real life for more people. And so the visionaries start playing with it, start using it, right? And starting to have ideas of, oh, wow, right? If they had this and we did this and they did this, oh man, right? This could be used for this. And so how people can help is just use the app, and of course it's paid, but we can do an offer code, right? Where people get like, I'll do 90 days, let people get 90 days for free just to use it and see, right? And it's not only
how much does it cost?
It's like if people do monthly, it's like $850 a month. Quarterly, I think it's a little bit cheaper per month, and then annual.
That's it? No, they don't need it for free. If you're watching this show, get Ricky's app for $850 this month. It's like 1 cup of coffee and a donut, and just start using. Now, if they're using it and they want to talk to you about their end user experience, I was trying to impress my boyfriend. But can they even get to you though?
Yeah. So my wife, again, our team is tiny, right? My wife does customer service. So they'll get to me, right? I'll be in the kitchen cooking. And that's
where a Cancer moon should be.
Exactly. And my wife will be at the table. She'll be at the table. She'll be like, hey, so-and-so wants to know blah, 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 right? And then so they have direct, they're right in my kitchen, right? They have direct access.
So they email you? They just email you and Lene?
Yeah, there's like a send feedback button inside the app for sure.
All right, listen, if you want to interface with the Ricky Williams to help him with his visioning phase of the app, get it for $850 and just talk to the guy. He's not that scary.
Yeah, and because I love questions, right? Yeah, I love questions and people talking about what does this mean. Another thing in the transit section, one of the in building this, like first, it's say transiting Saturn squaring someone's ascendant. We'll talk about Saturn squaring the ascendant, and then we'll give information about the house that Saturn is transiting to. And so I write a sentence like, where is this coming from, to help contextualize what's going on. Because again, even if we read and we study, we can understand conceptually what's going on. But I think bringing it down to earth is how do these concepts, how do they help me feel more engaged with what is showing up in my actual lived experience?
Yeah. So Shane, you had a question about the ephemeris, didn't you?
I did. I wanted to ask, how do you handle the ephemeris? Do you use a library that's out there? Did you build your own?
We forked a copy of the Swiss ephemeris in Swift, and we made it our own. We call it Swift ephemeris, and that's the magic. I'll get emotional if I talk about it, but the past 2 years, 3 years, I've just been learning to like work with the ephemeris, and we've created tens of thousands of lines of code where we created our own functions. Because to me, the key, and this is more shifting into Ask LILA, is trying to think of how to do this. And the first thing I realized is the first thing we have to do is train LILA to understand exactly what the person is asking. Because as I'm looking, right, people ask questions in the most interesting ways, and we have to train the large language model to figure out what is this person asking, and then we have to create the functions to grab the whatever information the model needs to give the best answer from the ephemeris based on the question, and then train the model how to think about and answer the question. So the work, and I've just over the past years, just in playing, I just keep creating functions using the ephemeris. So we have like house audits. We can go back in time and forward in time. And if you give me a date, I can tell you where a planet was. Oh, I even created this function where it's called aspect search, where someone can say, show me all the times that Saturn was in hard aspect, making a conjunction or whatever to any planet or to any house ruler. So I mean, this is what I do for fun. I just play with the ephemeris because there's so much.
It's interesting because when you explode the chart, like when we're looking at bipolarism and you explode the chart into one aspect on each wheel, what I train people to do is take that aspect and go forward in time with it, go back in time with it. Like when are all the times Saturn going to hit it? If it's a Mars aspect and it's a violent aspect of personality, when are all the violent outbreaks that we're going to have? So like, it sounds like your app could handle questions
See,
like
this
that.
is you asked, like, but I would work with you to say, let me build like your ideal thing, right? To help facilitate, right, what is true, and to create like a Mars activation module. Oh, that would be so.
That's good alliteration too.
I'm telling you, I just wake up in the morning and an idea of what I could do with the ephemeris pops in my head, and if I have time, I'll spend the whole day or a few hours I'm making it real.
Wow, interesting. Well, I mean, let us be a resource too, because I mean, I'm not telling you where Shane works because I don't know if I can say that online, but I'm telling you it's like really big in computers. It's like they build like the internet and stuff, So, I mean, look at him. He's a double Virgo with Mercury and Virgo rising. Like, I don't know, you do that math. Okay. So anyway, I hear their meetings.
Public knowledge, it's okay. It's on my Facebook page. It's on my LinkedIn. I work for.
He works for Cisco. Do you know what that is?
Oh, I do. Yeah.
Yeah, that's what he does.
Networking company, not the food transport.
I was going to say, yeah, the food. I used to work at Jack in the Box. Yeah.
He's like a team lead at Cisco. So anyway, but yeah, I think we're just extremely curious. I'm so glad we're taking the time to talk to you about your app because it is your baby, and it comes up during our show, but it's really a part of you that's underdeveloped, at least publicly from our standpoint of like, this is what your passion is. And so I mean, we have a question for you, which is how do you do the testing? Like in working out of nits? I mean, what do you guys call it? Beta testing or what?
well, again, I'm a Gemini with this Mercury T-square, and so my testing is prod. I mean,
what's that mean?
It means I don't do testing, right? And my mentor, our CTO, he's got Saturn and Gemini right on top of my midheaven, and a lot of stuff related to my Saturn. And his thing is like, he's Taurus rising. He goes so slow. It's painful, right? Like before we even can start to code, he has to understand everything first, right? And that's like 4 weeks before we can write any code. And I'm sitting there like, I can't handle it. So for me, like I get so like activated and antsy to just put something out. So one of the things that we did is I just created my main app. It's called Astrological, and it's just beta testers. So, and it's the techie part, right? These are the techies that don't care if something crashes, but they're interested in the technique. And when they find something that's really cool, they'll say, "Hey, can you work on this?" And then I'll clean that up a little bit. That's my sweet spot. But for the production apps, I've had to like tie myself back and empower Sam to take the lead, because when you're really, people are paying for something, they have a certain expectation of a certain level of cleanliness. Part of me is like, I get it, but part of me is like, fuck that. So it really is about finding the balance, because my ideas, they're so fresh and they're so new that it's like I need to get them out there so people can play with them and give me feedback so I can develop them. But that's not always conducive to the stability of what people expect, especially something as technical as astrology.
Oh my God, I hear you. That is like painful, like the slump. Wait, is that called a sprint, Shane? Is that a sprint when you, dude, see what I mean? What's a sprint?
Well, see, I go faster than the sprint, Like Sam is trying to say, we'll release a build every Wednesday. But to me, I'll see a bug or someone will write something in and I'll be like, I'll be up all night, my Virgo rising. I'll be up all night just to push something at 3 in the morning. Not the best idea because you're not thinking it clearly.
Yeah.
I've been working all night, so there's bugs, but I'm learning, right? It's a slow process, and people that are
It's
working
cool
on
for your
that,
Mercury, Uranus, Saturn T-square. It's like the Mercury, Uranus can trip on all the ideas that come to you, these flashes of insight, and then the Saturn can kind of get to work. So even if it's a little bit of a T-square process for you where it comes in spurts and fits and starts, at least they say those T-squares are so successful because they spurt like that. It's like so
yeah,
um
yeah. Mhm.
wait, do you
So,
understand what he's saying? Oh, Shane, what are you gonna say?
well, just on the subject of going fast and being, furious like that, do you ever code when you're at the Balmer Peak? You know what that is?
I don't. Tell me.
Uh, you should Google it. It's a long-standing joke where a certain amount of alcohol makes programmers more productive, but too much, and of course, the productivity goes way down. So if
Yeah,
you can get yourself just slightly tipsy, you are hyper effective for a
yeah,
That
long time.
would be him on weed. That would
yeah.
be
That's me. I get really high, and I'm like off, right? Like, and I mean, it's difficult to measure, productivity of. I mean, maybe I could measure, but as far as the subjective experience, I feel like when I smoke, it's like how some people when they drink a cup of coffee and they're off.
Yeah.
It's like I get it, and I call it like like
Helps
coding.
you
It's like coding comas, right? Where time stops, and I'm like in it.
you're
Huh.
like
you
in the zone.
that zone where you're just focused on it and everything's just flowing super easily and you're just yeah.
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 And I'm like, oh shit, I missed my podcast with Andy.
That happened one time. You were 7 minutes late, is what happened.
Usually that's what happens. I'm like, huh, right? I got 2 minutes, and then I get in like a code phase a coma that goes like 10 minutes, and I come out and I look and I'm like, oh god, what happened to the clock?
Well, that's the only good reason to be late is when you're in a code coma.
Yeah,
Because that means you're taking care of your baby.
yeah,
Okay, I have to know, do you have scrums?
that sounds familiar.
What's a scrum, Shane?
Scrum is usually part of agile software development.
Okay, yeah, we
Daily.
we did we did this for a little bit, and honestly, like in the way that I work, it just wasn't very efficient, and it got really really expensive. No. But what we do is we try to keep that in the back of our minds. We had a conversation today about, if we were doing if we were doing a better job of meeting more consistently, that a lot of the grooming, if we were doing more grooming, that a lot of the bugs we're finding would get ironed out. But at the same time, I think we've also found a way to move faster. We're not as agile, but to move faster. But I think we're figuring it out to where we're going to do like one monthly grooming session and just to be hyper focused so that we can be efficient and get all the little details worked out. Because one of our major challenges is when we started this and working with our developer, right? He didn't know any astrology. I mean, he knows a lot now after a couple of years, but he didn't know any astrology and I didn't know any code. So my motivation to start learning just the basics of coding is so that I could communicate more effectively and more efficiently. But then I activated that T-square and I fell in love with it and I couldn't stop because I started to realize, if I have to communicate and wait on other people to put my crazy ideas into reality, I'm going to be waiting a long ass time. But I have a lot of time, so I'm just going to get to work and grind and I have, and it's been so rewarding because now I created my own app, right? That is on the App Store and people are using all over the world. Oh man, that feeling is like it's cool. It's humbling. It's really humbling.
I have a question for us as a team here. How can we get more at LILA into more hands of more astrologers? I mean, there's got to be a way to get it more ubiquitously. I mean, Stephen is really famous, and you're I mean, well known. I mean, but how what is it advertising at conferences? Is it what is that? I guess that would be a marketing question.
Yeah, so we haven't spent much energy on marketing at all. I mean, kind of in a weird way. If I don't like I we haven't even talked about it on in 40, right? However many shows we've done, we haven't even really talked about it. And part of it is I think the astrology for grown-ups, it's a Saturn company. And I think part of the growth is it's slow and it's organic and it's not for everyone. But I do think it could be for more astrologers. You know, one issue that I think your community is going to face, and we've wrestled with this, but is the question of house systems. And Stephen uses Placidus, and so that's what we use. But I'm open to allowing people to toggle back and forth and to use any house system that fits, because Stephen's astrological knowledge, his astrologic, it's sound. It's sound. So house systems different. Whatever. I'd even hold up Stephen's writings in Vedic because they're astrologically sound.
Shane, doesn't this sound like a B2B and not a B2C?
Yeah, it does.
Okay, can you explain to Ricky what a B2B is?
I know what a B2B is,
okay,
but I would like to hear more what you're thinking.
Well, this is something that I've talked to Andy about a lot in terms of the Moira Press, because what she wants to do is teach astrologers classes. Like she wants to teach advanced astrology to people who are already astrologers. And I liken that to being like a business to business, B2B type of transaction within the astrological community. The people who are making YouTube videos doing generic predictions for the month or the week, the horoscope columns in the paper, that's astrology for consumers. That's astrology for people who are not astrologers. And so that's like a B2C, business to customer type of selling. You know, you're not selling it to somebody who knows astrology. You're selling it to somebody who wants to be entertained by astrology. But when you're trying to teach astrologers more advanced astrology, or when you're trying to produce an app for somebody who knows enough astrology to get value out of the daily transits or something like that, you're an astrologer selling to astrologers, B2B.
All right. That's such an interesting insight from someone outside of the astrological community. So here's where I stand with that. All right. First and foremost, I have beautiful insight, like I said, and where it rubs me is, and I see the future as being, this is my Mercury Uranus. I see the future as there's no more astrologers. Everyone just knows astrology. So what you're saying again about the current state, beautiful insight and very useful, right? And right, how do we bridge? And this is the crossing the chasm. How do we? And this is what we're doing is we're by more astrologers, not just being astrologers and creating content, but they're actually living it and creating content from there. And then I think people start living astrology more, and my vision has the ability to become more and more true. And I think where it interacts with what you're saying is if we can B2B get other astrologers actually living the astrology and putting that out, it raises the quality of the consumer content.
It does. And I think LILA is a great app for bridging that, because if you get astrologers using it to start living it as they train students or people or whoever on astrology, they would be recommending, hey, why don't you use LILA to help you learn your astrology?
Yeah.
That's kind of how it's going to grow organically.
Well, could it be that the football players get LILA?
No. No. So one piece about LILA, because I said it is an app, but to me the bigger vision is about an astrological lifestyle brand and people living through the insights that astrology can offer us. And so part of how we do that, and this really speaks to the B2B part of it, is we call them community events. And Steve and I alternate. 1 month, Steve will do, we call it Pluto Hour. And people, if you're an annual subscriber, it's free to join. If you're not, it costs $15. And people send in their charts and they send in questions. But we call it Pluto Hour because it's questions that someone might talk to their therapist about. Because to me, this is the kind of astrology we do. This is the real power of it, is when you're really grown up, when you're really willing to deal with the stuff. Okay. This is where astrology can help. So Steve will pick 4 charts and he'll spend 15 minutes on each chart, and they're juicy questions. But the idea is showing people how, right? How this kind of astrology can help untangle us from these knots that we're all born with. And then the next month I've done a couple of things, but what we're settling on now is it's a community event, and we call it Making Love Work. Making Love Work. And people send in their charts and they send in questions specifically about relationship. And Making Love Work is about looking at your own chart and using your own chart to solve your relationship problems. Because I think the issue is when people start expecting other people, the people they're in relationship with, to solve their relationship problems. And I find understanding your relationship needs, okay, what you need, is the best thing you can do for your partner.
Interesting. Okay, I have one last question, which is, what do the visual images on LILA look like? Can someone screen share? No?
The visual images of the text, because we don't really have images.
No, like of the chart image. What's the chart image look like? Shane, can you pull it on your phone or no?
The chart image it's about to change. Shauna, our designer, I designed the initial chart. Well, me and the developer designed the initial chart. I gave him what I wanted, and he says, I think this will work better for what you're doing. And so we kind of met a middle ground. And then Shauna came in, and Shauna's an astrologer, our designer, and she said she had some ideas for redesigning the chart. So
it's are we looking at it there in the middle there, Shane?
Yeah, this is just on the Google Play Store. These are the screenshots of the app. Closest I could come up with easily.
Yeah. Nice.
It didn't work very well, so
yeah.
It's kind of a bare bones chart, not a lot of bells and whistles, but really clear, it looks like.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah,
nice. That's the way I try to do astrology. I really focus on the 10 planets and the nodes.
It looks really Virgoic.
Yeah, Shauna's a Virgo.
Oh, nice.
We have a lot of Virgo. We have a lot of Virgos on the team. And Justin, the original designer who built it, is a Virgo too.
Oh my God. Gotta love those Virgos, man. Your wife, I'm a Pisces moon and I just love Virgos. And I think your wife, they do critique me sometimes, but I critique them back. So I've worked that part out. All right. Well, we have 2 minutes left. Ricky, is there anything else you want people to know about LILA or?
But we just, I had a discussion with Sam, our CTO, about the B2B conversation, and Ask LILA. I think I like it because it can meet people where they are. And even you can program an LLM. If someone puts in that they're a beginner, it strips out as much of the jargon as possible and just speaks in everyday language. And then if someone can change the setting to go up and have more astrological jargon, or they can go all the way to the top where, astro nerd. So I tried to make, because with LILA, you have to have a sense of what you're looking for, kinda, to get the most out of it. We try to do a good job of making it easy. But Ask LILA, you just ask a question, and we're training the model to meet people where they are and show them how astrology can be beneficial and useful in their life based on where they are and what they're willing to share.
Nice. Well, thanks for going through this. I know it was a little bit of a diversion from our topic, but if we didn't do this, I would just feel like we couldn't see you. And that's not okay. So
yeah, I appreciate that.
Thank you. Fun. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Shane. I'm glad.
Yeah, thank you, Shane. It's very, very helpful. Very helpful.
Now you get to see who my freaking lovely fiance is.
Yeah, I'm jealous.
I know. I can't tell if he's which side he's jealous on. All right. All right. Well, we will see you next week, Ricky, with we'll have guests for the next few months at least. So
I'll be here.
all right, bye.
Bye.